Hello, this is Phil Wagoner. I'm here today with the latest edition of my podcast, Raising Godly Children in an Ungodly World. In it, I'm interviewing young men and women who have gone through or are currently in the last 2 years of high school or college, or are new to navigating the world as an adult. These are young people who have kept their faith in God through the social and mental pressures that affect us all, especially young adults who are trying to find their niche in life. I want to know how they did it and are continuing to do it as they go from one step to the next in life. Then, when possible, we'll talk to their parents and get their perspective on their involvement. And at the end, I'll expound on a scripture from the Bible that talks about parenting. Hello, this is Phil Wagner. I'm here with our podcast, Raising Godly Kids in an Ungodly World. I've got a very special guest with me today, somebody that I've known for about 6-7 years. And we'll get into that a little bit, but her name is Rachel Kinsella, and she is in her second year of college, and we'll also get into that in a little bit. Hello, Rachel. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm well. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, as the man used to say.
Yes, it is.
I don't know if you remember when you first met me. Do you?
I mean, I can't picture a day, but
I can. I can picture the day.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I look at the video probably 3 or 4 times a year. Rachel was a freshman in high school, and she was on the 4x400 relay team that won state. She was the youngest girl on the team. And she also, now I clocked her. I hand clocked everybody. I clocked her as the fastest that day. She broke 60 seconds in her 400 as a freshman. And so after the race, we were back at the bus. I had driven the bus, and we were back at the bus. And I said, and your mother and sister, and I think it was Grace. Can't remember which sister it was, but anyway, back at the bus, and I said to you, well, now that you're a freshman and you're a state champion, what do you plan on doing next? That's what you said. You just looked at me and laughed like, who is this crazy old man? I don't even know you. That's when I first noticed you, and you always impressed me. So let's talk about, what was high school like for you?
You know, high school was a lot of fun. I remember deciding to go to Trainer. I was in between Trainer and following my sister to Duchesne. Mm-hmm. In the end, I just really liked the community of Trainer, and I really liked how many things I could do. Because going to Duchesne, it's like, okay, you're doing a lot of schoolwork, you choose one sport, and you're not really doing any clubs or anything. But here, I could do soccer, track, softball, all 3 at the same time. I could be in speech and do all of the fun things. And in like involving myself, that's where I found a lot of myself and a lot of the people that I could connect with. So that was how I found my own success in Trainer.
Did you have a lot of peer pressure in Trainer?
You know, I think there's pressure wherever you go, and it's just kind of growing up. But I think that is also a lot that I grew into for myself, was figuring out who I wanted to listen to. Was it the people in my class? Was it the older kids that were doing whatever? Or was it like my own inner compass, my own faith, my family, what my parents thought, what my siblings thought? And in the end, it's kind of just like I learned to listen to myself. I mean, I remember like my dad telling me that you have to be like confident in yourself. Because, you know, he wears crazy outfits. He wears hats and all of the things. So it's just like growing up for me, it was a lot of like, at first you're insecure, you don't know what's going on, you're figuring out the world, but then you just start to get comfortable with your own, whatever it is you want to do with your life. In doing that, it's a long process. There are a lot of errors to be made. There's like bad judgments all the time, but it's like what you take from it. It's the lessons you learn that like make you grow into a better person, I think.
I talked to a girl last month, a friend of mine's daughter. She's a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
And I said, so what's the big pressure? And she goes to a huge school.
Right.
Huge. They've got 850 in the graduating class. And I said, so what's the number one peer pressure that you face? I mean, she didn't even stop to think. She said, drugs.
Yeah.
So what were some of the peer pressures, or what were the things that you were facing that you had to think about?
You know, I think it is, I mean, that's kind of like the big one that comes to mind is just like, I remember like vaping became a thing when I was going through middle school and then high school. And it was a thing for cool people or whatever to have a vape. And I just remember stories of like a girl, she got her wisdom teeth out and she was so cool because she got like the dry caps because she was vaping. And I was like, that is not cool to me. That was painful. Like,
I never had any problem with my wisdom teeth, but every one of my kids that did had dry socket.
yes.
And
Yeah.
I can't imagine, oh, well, that's really cool. You got dry. No, I can't. I don't see that. So was that a hard pressure for you? Did you do drugs? Maybe you took drugs.
I am very happy with the fact that I was able to find my crowd.
Hmm.
That's definitely something that helped me with my experience growing up. Finding people who have share the same values as me.
Yeah.
So we were able to together like say no to whatever and not go to whatever party and have something fun of our own.
Now,
And
you made that decision on your own.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
No, because a lot of times, the parents will, and especially in a small school like you were in, a small community where everybody knows everybody and
Yeah.
what's going on. And, the parents, well, no, you're not going to hang out with them. You're not
Right.
going to, but you made those decisions.
I mean, like, when I was young, my mom
Oh,
would
sure.
be like, oh, no, like, you're not going to this person's house. But then growing up, I was like, okay, maybe I don't even want to.
Mm-hmm.
Because going from, like, an experience that you're not comfortable in, then you just don't want to be there from then on, you know?
So it's who you're hanging out with. It's who you.
I 100% think that,
Yeah.
yeah. And then, like, my advice is also, like, be involved in things that like you can show your morals at, like whatever it is, even if it's just soccer, like making sure that you're like being the light of Christ in whatever way you are, so then other people recognize that, and then people who don't agree can just stay away, and people who like that are nice and talk to you. And,
Sure.
yeah.
Well, obviously, I mean, you were popular. I know you were popular. You were. I mean, I know you're a very humble person too. But you were homecoming queen, right? Or yes,
I was.
I remember that. I do. Phew, that was a good one. No, I do
Oh,
remember that,
goodness.
and that's a popularity contest. It really is, and so that's
I called it the kindness contest.
okay.
Because, it wasn't just about like who looked coolest or whatever. It was who people wanted to win. Even
Yeah.
like from
Oh, I understand.
years onward. Because it's like, I don't know. People just told me they like, oh, I remembered when you did this for me, or remembered when you sent this text to me. And I think that's all it was.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, but that makes you popular, right? I mean, I didn't mean we're going down a road here. I don't want to go down, okay? But
Yeah.
that's what I meant. I meant
Okay.
that people they thought a lot of you. The kids
Okay.
thought a lot of you
Thank
to
you.
win something like that. So, did you have challenges that you do different?
looking back, I remember like, especially like my first couple years in high school, it was more of like, I mean, I was still figuring out where I wanted to be. So I think I was more worried about like how I was coming across, less worried about like other people. And I think looking back, like half of my years worrying about myself, and it didn't work out for me, like wanting to look good in other people's eyes. And then it's like you don't make those friends because you're so quiet and like watchful of whatever. You're not being yourself. So that is something like, I don't know, a lot of people go through, I guess, though.
Well, I think everybody goes through that.
Yeah.
Right? It's when you get to the point that doesn't matter
Yeah,
what other people are thinking.
right.
I don't mean that in a negative way. It does
No,
matter
yeah.
if you're coming across in a negative way. If you're comfortable with who you are and
Right.
and the life you're living, then it doesn't matter what other people are thinking. What's the biggest temptations that you were facing? It doesn't sound like drugs and alcohol and
Really
those
tempted me.
those kinds of things were a problem at all. Did you want to go to those parties but thought, nah, I better not?
I mean, a temptation was trying to like fit in and be like, there's always like the fear of missing out,
Right.
that kind of thing. So that's always like a big part, is just wanting to make those memories, but also wanting to have lines of like where I wanted to be that day
Mm-hmm.
and like what it would do for me,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
What about relationships, boys and girls and relationships? I seem to remember you had a boyfriend.
Oh, I did.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Yeah.
Was that a big deal, a little deal, or?
I mean, it was like a high school relationship,
Mm-hmm.
you know? I don't know. It seems like all my siblings went through very similar things. It's just
Yeah, every one of my kids
hmm
was dating the person they wanted to marry when they graduated from high school,
right.
and none of them did.
Right. Yep. I get
and
that.
so, yeah, I get that.
Yeah. And it's just like when you're in high school, there
Did you feel like you had to have a boyfriend?
uh, yeah, kind of.
Mm-mm.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just a part of high school. I felt like was like the boys and like
Mm-hmm.
growing up, you know. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your faith. Tell me about your faith. What do you believe?
So I am a Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
I have believed in God my entire life. I grew up with strong Catholic parents who
Mhm.
took me to church every Sunday, but my faith really started after I was confirmed when I found, like, in college, when I found out for myself that, yes, this is where I want to be. Yes, God is my foundation. And then, like, made that decision for myself. Because before it was always my parents, like,
Mhm.
taking me to church, telling me, oh, like, this is God's grace in the world. But when I can do that on my own, that's when I found my faith like the strongest.
Cool. Was that something you exhibited in high school?
I had a hard time in early high school and middle school being like, I think we were almost the only Catholic people in Trainer. I mean, there's a ton of Christians and I love that, but just there were some traditions that I would like have to come late to school for or, show up like have to go from class or like over the weekend to skip for church.
Mhm.
And that was a little bit different. And we have a different meal prayer and different things like that,
Mhm.
which is like minimal, but it just felt a little different.
Did the kids bother you with that? Were there any specific times they would confront you and go, "Hey, what's the deal here?" Or,
Yeah. I mean, I had a couple of like nicknames. Like
really?
yeah.
Miss them.
Right, that were just like Catholic Queen or whatever, but it was like very I don't know, like sarcastic.
Yeah.
And it was just a couple of guys making fun of me
Mhm.
or it was just like a name tag for me.
Mhm.
And at first I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I want that to be like my whole like stamp."
Mhm.
But then I kind of thought about it and I was like, "Why is that such a bad thing?" It is a part of me.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just heard a guy say today, if people aren't making fun of your faith,
Yeah.
then you're doing it wrong.
Oh,
So,
that's kind of cool.
you know,
Yeah, I guess.
but that's true. It's,
Yeah.
you're always going to have somebody that's out there being sarcastic about it and everything like that. Now, you're is it a Jesuit college?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. So is the peer pressure and that kind of thing, is it different? Is it harder? Is it easier now or in college?
I mean, going to college is I feel like it's a little more so than high school. I mean, I'm in Chicago, so it's a ton of different kind of pressures. Like now, weed is legal in Chicago, and that's a big thing. It's not legal on our campus, but there's people like
Oh, yeah.
in the dorms with it. There's, it's a lot going on. And there's different kind of pressures like getting a fake ID and going to bars and
Mhm.
stuff. Like the first day I moved in, one of my roommates, because I was in like a forced triple, she immediately asked me when we were going out and like if I had fakes on me because she had like 7 and I was like whoa. So it like we had to sit down and have like conversations about where we were at, what we wanted. And I am so lucky that my other roommate was very adamant about not wanting to get a fake ID. And then I feel like that helped me
Oh,
stay
sure.
grounded in it.
Oh, sure.
So,
So you say we had to sit down and talk. Do you mean the school had you
No.
Or the three of you
The
were?
school did have us sit down as like a full class, and they were like giving us their weed's illegal, like alcohol, it's a dry campus, whatever. People were laughing the whole time.
Mm-mm.
It was like the security guy saying it was making jokes. He was like,
Mm-mm.
but like no. But I mean, fair, it's a college campus.
Yeah.
But it was just like my first week of college, and I didn't need that, you know.
I understand.
Yeah. Like
But it sounds like you handled it great.
I'm really glad I had another friend there
Yeah.
that felt the same, because it was a lot happening at once. So
Did you feel like you could call? Who would you call? Who would be somebody that you could call for advice? Did you feel like you could call your parents?
you know, I would immediately call Grace.
Mm-hmm.
Grace was my go-to.
Grace is your older sister.
Yes.
She was at Notre Dame.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So because it's just like my older sister. She's just a little easier to reach out to. My mom was very adamant about like, don't like stay out of that life. My dad been there, done that for him, but he wants us to like,
Mm-hmm.
have a different path. And I really respect like their thoughts, but my older sister was kind of
Yeah,
my
that's
go-to for it.
yeah. I was the older brother.
Yeah.
I never got that call,
Yeah.
and I understand. But that's great.
Yeah.
I love hearing your story. I love hearing that, the decisions that you made and kind of what influenced you in that. So what would you tell 15-year-old Rachel? Give her some advice.
Oh goodness. I would definitely say to like sit down with myself and listen to what I want and be confident about it. Like I've always been a very indecisive person. Like, oh, others can like sway me into whatever decision, but I've learned to like grow lines and boundaries for myself,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that came with years of experience, but also is something that I would like to share for myself how great that is, and definitely like yeah, being confident in who I am and listening to where I want to be in the future.
What question would you ask your older self? What's something you want to know?
Oh goodness. I mean, I would like to know where I am, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and like what kind of relationships I have, how strong are they? Because right now, like I feel like I'm doing great with school, with family. I have no idea where I'm going to wind up,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely like making sure I like follow my gut and have like better relationships with people that make me a better person. So I'd be interested to see who exactly does not make the cut and who does. That's like a very,
What do you mean by who makes the cut?
you know,
You're in pre-med.
yes.
I don't know. We didn't mention that. I don't think. Is that what you mean by
I just
getting
have
into medical school or?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
see where I end up with that. And then like right now I have a few different like friends, and some of them I don't know if they're really making me a better person.
Mhm.
Like they just aren't like as well-rounded of people.
Mhm.
So I don't know. But I did find like other people who I'll be living with next year, so I'm very excited about that. Yeah, so see who
People that you've
nurtures.
chosen.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
What's an example of a boundary that you feel like you need to put in place in relationships? Specifically, well, with like you were saying with your roommates, your girlfriends, but also with boys.
I'm learning a lot of boundaries like with my roommates, and then with guys. I'm not really dating right now. I'm not looking for anything, but
Mhm.
also if I were to, I think like having a good conversation about what I want in life, like because like a big thing is if we share the same morals, the same like religion or religious beliefs, that's like a big thing. And then like just knowing that like I am dating to marry, and
Mhm.
that's like a big thing that's very like different in today's world. It's not so
Yes.
big. So that's kind of like my number one thing that would happen. And that's hard. Like, it's hard to have conversations like that, but it's important.
This has really been good, Rachel. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, here's my last question.
Alrighty.
What is a crazy God-changing experience for you that really altered the course of your life? Now, you kind of hinted to that when you got to college and had to make your own decision on who God is and who He is in your life. But was there a specific thing that happened? Did you see a light? Did you hear a voice? Did you?
So there was it was the fall semester of my freshman year in college, and it was like there was a lot going on. It was towards the end of the semester, and I just was not feeling good about where I was at. I was in these clubs, but I didn't like them. The people that I was friends with were not great people, and I was just getting to know them better, and I was like, this is not where I want to be. Sometimes I'm a terrible communicator, so I hadn't called my mom or my family for too long, and I was just feeling like not great that week. I had a lot going on for school, like finals were coming up. It was just a lot going on. I was in my own head, and I ended up going to church that Sunday morning, and I stayed for an extra half an hour, I think, just sitting there talking to God. And the amount of peace that I felt sitting in church, it was like bright, sunny, beautiful day. It was supposed to be cold, but the sun was shining through the windows, and I just felt His presence. And then the next day, I met some really cool people, and I had written in a journal, please show me who's supposed to be in my life. I need a community. And I joined a different club, and that brought me so many new people and memories, and I'm still in it. It's great. And I don't know, it was just
what club was that?
It's called AMDG. It's like a Catholic club. So it was awesome, yeah. And I also joined a workout club called Charge. And now I'm one of the leaders of it. So
I've heard that story.
It's a lot of fun. But yeah, so there's just a couple of great communities that I joined the next day, and I just really felt like He listened to me. He opened my heart and let me know that He was there, and there were other things for me at this school, and I wasn't in the right spot. And it really helped me.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. And then I was able to, I was thinking, do I transfer? Is this worth it? I came back the next semester, and it was great. So,
a lot of what you've been saying is surprising me, because you've always seemed to me like the person that got them, they've got everything in order. I know the direction I'm going, and I'm not this and that. And here you're sitting here telling me, well, you're talking to God about, am I in the right place and what am I doing? And this is going to be good for parents to hear.
Yeah.
And this is going to be good for kids to hear, because there's, and you probably know this, there's just a lot of people out there that they're faking life, is what I say. They're faking it, they're just, well, this is the way I'm supposed to act, but it's not really the way I want to.
Right.
And I don't know what to do about it. And I think you've answered a lot of those questions. Okay, this has been really great, Rachel. Thank you so much for coming by.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And we'll get together again sometime.
Awesome.
All right, thank you. That's our podcast for the day. Thanks for listening. If you're interested in a daily devotional, we have what we call the Word to Live By that goes out every morning. To have that sent to you on a daily basis, send me an email at pbwags@gmail.com. That's pbwaggs@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.